All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Eric Jr. Podcast. I'm your former host, Ray Stiles, and I'm joined here by soon-to-be former hosts, Chris Lynch and Jacob Klein. We are back from an extreme hiatus, and myself especially, over 500 days not appearing on the EJP, but we felt a little incomplete, and so we're here. We're thinking episode 160, potentially not correct with the lost files, as Jake likes to call them, but we have so many memories with the podcast, but we kind of wanted to do a little bit of a potential laid to rest episode. We might have a couple caveats on that, but it's a big time sending off tour with a little Eagles preview for what's been a wild ride with a lot of stops and starts.
Yeah. Great intro, Ray. Yeah. Great to be back. Great to have you back. It does bring back certain memories. Not all the memories are good. A lot of pain, a lot of bad takes, a lot of pointless conversations that lead nowhere. But here we are.
Look, the fact is, podcasts do not come out this infrequently. We have really no right to be bringing you any new content from the three of us together. But it's somehow been allowed, and there is no justifying this hiatus. The fact of the matter is, we've been absent for far too long.
Yeah.
But we're here to bring you just one last round of takes.
Yeah.
One last reported section of jibber jabber. And look, man, it was going to take something special to bring us back, and it's been that and more for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest reason why we're here, to lay the podcast to rest, like Ray said, maybe some caveats to go into, but also just because we're so excited about this Eagles season, right? Right? This has a lot of the ingredients of a magic season. What are your takes right off the bat as we get into it?
Yeah, and before I get into the specifics, it is something of an homage to, this is the time of year to do the the going away episode, the Eagles preseason pod, the football season. We're football guys. This is
a classic episode archetype. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. And so, we had to do the best sport, the top dog, the most important team to go for the final ride here. But as for the actual upcoming season, I'll lay out the caveats right here, right now. While we're doing the logistics of the podcast. Basically, what we've kind of come to is this thing, my departure, it might have sent things off the rails a little bit. And, I don't know, the co-managing between the Wonder Twins here was the best thing for the enterprise. And so,
bold to assume that we were ever on the rails.
And so we, we're thinking all right, this thing's just got to be kind of put into the drawer. But the thing we want to keep the door open for is if the Eagles or the Phillies or somebody who's actually showing a bit of a pulse here makes the finals, and probably nothing less exciting than that would bring it out of the woodwork. Only a finals or World Series championship level appearance where we could maybe take that ride together in terms of the ups and downs of previewing and reacting to that. That would probably be, and getting those things recorded, that would probably be the only thing to pull it back out. But anything short of that is probably not worth your time or ours, potentially.
I mean, the truth of the matter is, the EJP got into the podcast game a little late, but before the oversaturation of the market occurred. And we're getting out at the perfect time with some very specific and sensible caveats.
Yeah, I think that's for the best, like you said, for us who have to move on with our lives.
But for whatever sickos are listening right now, it's really best for you.
For whatever person who's had this podcast come up in their feed after 4 months of radio silence, I mean, we commend you, and this is more about getting it on the record as opposed to, you know, building a fan base, as it were. I think we're probably past that point of the podcast.
All right. All right. So now we got it all cleared out. We're on to the actual on the field. So let's each throw out just a win-loss prediction. This will set the tone of everybody's vibes. I really, we haven't done that much discussion on the team in terms of amongst ourselves of what we really think is about to happen. I'll go first. I'm feeling very confident. I've laid $200 on a Eagles to win the NFC East bet, and I'm feeling a 12-5 season, a very strong season with one seed potential. I'm not going to declare that, but one seed potential, and it's a combination of things. It's not purely the Eagles themselves or Nick Salami, who I've loved and always have. It's the cupcake schedule that we're looking at here. I mean, the schedule is quite favorable. I remember last season it was good, not great, and we were kind of meh on some of the portions that they would go through.
Right.
With the schedule here, they get a lot of good stuff at home. I don't mind leading off with the Lions. There's a lot to be had, and the division still has not come around to being anything really treacherous to navigate. So I like a really strong season here, and with the Cowboy regression, I'm feeling really good coming into this season.
Yeah, I think that's the general sentiment. I mean, you could go contrarian take, and we'll talk about some of those pitfalls, but it's really hard to envision this team not at least being 500 or whatever the new equivalent of.
Above, yeah.
And I would say my prediction's probably right around where yours is, 11-6, double-digit wins, taking care of the, beating up against some of those lesser teams, and then, stealing a couple close ones, hopefully.
Yeah.
But you're right. Last season, at the very end of it, I mean, they rip off 7 of 9 at the end. They clinch the playoffs and don't even have to play their starters in the last game. It was such a weird, topsy-turvy season.
Yeah.
And the way that schedule was constructed, we, with the offseason in hindsight, we kind of realized how limited the ceiling of that team was. And it could not be more different coming into this year. So give me 11-6 in the NFC East divisional title to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the vibe around the team right now is like not even just playoffs or bust. It's win the division. It's go deep into the playoffs. That's where the expectations are starting to build for this team. With every veteran signing or trade that they have to fill another hole, it's just higher and higher is the expectations. And I'm curious to see how the team responds to it, because it's an interesting mix of you have your veterans who were there during the Super Bowl run, right? That core group of 6 or 7 players that you're still going to lean on, and then you have a lot of young players right now that have been brought in, and new players this offseason who are going to play new roles. It's interesting to see how they all kind of work together to make this team happen. But I'm right with you guys. 10-6 seems to be the minimum that people are going to accept, or 10-7. Sorry, 7 games, still fuzzy on that. That seems to be the minimum that is going to do it for this team, or heads are going to roll, right? Jonathan Gannon, Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, all massive undertakings that they have this year. So yeah, I'm right there with you guys.
Right. I mean, when you think about how this offseason started with the acquisition of Hassan Reddick, it was pretty quiet early on. We were looking for crumbs. Everybody was excited about that signing. But if you look from that moment in time to where we are now, all the acquisitions, the movement, the moves by Howie to just build solid acquisitions and moves on top of each other, to stack those types of moves and to fill hole after hole. It's been a miraculous thing to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and it's been very Howie-esque. There's been 2 to 3 things that kind of got this guy, he's so frustrating. It's telling that Jalen Reagor has just been moved on from, JJ's been traded away. Dillard broke his arm. He has the pitfalls and he has the masterful moves in him all in the same offseason. You can have an offseason where he makes a fantastic trade with the Saints and then, getting an extra first-round pick. And then he, in the same draft, is acquiring A.J. Brown. And then also, even if you didn't like that, at least for myself, around the draft time, I'd kind of narrowed in on really wanting, a few guys. There was a few, like, elite receivers, like Jameson Williams, Olave. But then Jordan Davis and Kyle Hamilton were kind of like the early teens guys where it was like, hey, if you don't walk away with, like, one of these awesome receivers or Hamilton or Davis, it's going to feel kind of disappointing. To come away with, like, Traylon Burks or something, that would be a little bit, underwhelming. So to get aggressive, move up, jump a couple teams, get Jordan Davis, come back around in the third, get Nakobe Dean. Jurgens looked fantastic in the preseason and ready to rumble. It looks like, you can never really know, but it looks like you got, 3 hits in the draft as well as fantastic draft capital trades with the Saints and then acquiring, A.J. Brown, having just an amazing, front end of the offseason, and then the Howie special of the back end of, like, the training camp trades, much like the Ronald Darby pickup back in the day, getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson only a week before the season starts. That's, finding value. That's still working the phones pretty late into the – it's a guy who is 15 years into this. It's something where that's experience, that's expertise, and as much as many people probably wanted him let go 2 off seasons ago after such a terrible Wentz situation, the turnaround, though not perfect, and of course some of these guys aren't going to work out. Maybe Cam Johnson, maybe Cam Jurgens doesn't work out and he sucks. Whatever. Oh man, we wasted that second round pick. But the general overall logic is completely there, and you could see why he's doing these things, why he's acquiring these players. So you have to feel pretty good about the off season, and we can kind of get into, hey, maybe what are some negatives or some potential problems with this team, but nobody can sit here and, like, you could really, really undermine some teams' thinking of, like, why would you spend money on, like the Jags, like, why are you going out and blowing tons of money on Zay Jones and Christian Kirk? You can, like, really question, like, that move. There's been nothing really this offseason that has major, major red flags on his last, like, 6 months.
Yeah, it's been a really complete offseason for Howie. He's done a great job of not only, like, finding value, but plugging holes with that. He's married the two concepts perfectly, right? Like, he's filled pretty much every need of the team from last year, outside of that quarterback position, top to bottom. And then he's also done it, like you said, Ray, like finding value in the draft and making these draft capital trades where you still have flexibility moving forward in the next year's draft. It's really in September, it's like a perfect offseason. We'll see what happens during the season, but
it's just the expectation reset. 2 years ago, you look at this roster still having Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, and it's one of the oldest teams in the league, and we are so down on the organization and everybody calling for Howie's head. 2 years later, to be sitting where we sit, it is remarkable, and I really don't know how many other guys are capable. I know he's got this long leash because of how long he's been in this position, but it's absolutely remarkable. I would dare say this past offseason, that's the greatest NFL offseason, not including some type of quarterback acquisition ever, because every other thing has been addressed. If you go position group by position group, it was a masterful job. And I feel just really, I mean, that's part of the juice swap that's initiated this episode.
Right.
There is so much juice surrounding this team.
And the one, like, people always, the one of the things stopping people from believing in this team is, remembering that dream team era of the Eagles, right? Like, that off season, people were so excited about all the players that we got, but there was always a sense of like overindulgence. Like, did we really need to sign Nnamdi Asomugha after we traded for Marty and
and had Asante Samuel already.
And had Asante Samuel, like there was always that thing of like in hindsight, oh duh, like why would you do that? Why would you just completely change the culture of your team with like for a marginal talent upgrade at a massive cost? There doesn't seem to be anything like that. We didn't get rid of any guys. We brought back probably too many if you look at the defensive line and how stacked it is, and our everyone's favorite Derek Barnett. Like the fact that he's still on the roster, and we added Hassan Reddick and a couple of and Jordan Davis to that defensive line, and we're getting Brandon Graham back. Like it is,
they're loaded.
Yeah, you're right. Like they're loaded. It's unbelievable. But you keep that core of players. You keep the big C word culture, right? Like in place from last year, all the good vibes, and you're just adding to it. It's really, that's what's so exciting about it to me.
A lot of it starts in the draft, though, too. Like you have to draft well.
And that's been a big thing for Howie. He hasn't been drafting well. Like 2 years ago, that was such a hole in his resume.
Yeah, but he has. I mean, if you just look, like you said, almost to a detriment, they extend their own guys sometimes. But honestly, you have Goddard, you have Avonte Maddox, you have Seumalo, Dickerson was obviously a hit, Mailata, Lane Johnson, Jack Driscoll. Like you have so many pieces of this roster that have been internal finds, later picks like after the third round that have worked out, guys like Avonte Maddox, where, extending those and just creating a building block allows you to go get, James Bradbury and just slot him in and be like, okay, now we have a completed, secondary. And so things like that, the fundamentals, he's been hitting on the fundamentals much better. And frankly, part of it's been, people have kind of joked he's going to the Alabama well, he's going to the Georgia well, he's just going to the better program well. And it's like probably should have just been doing that the whole time.
As opposed to the TCU and Stanford well, like maybe you're onto something there.
Yeah, start taking Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson more often. So the ability to kind of build a strong core, and then he's added these veterans that have had contract disputes or whatever was going on with them, where their money was an issue at the other place, and they can kind of pick the guy up for a 1-year rental. That's been a really good supplement. Kaiser White, another one, like the middle linebacker for $5 million.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, underrated, I think, for the contract he's on. So it's been a really it's been a multi-year kind of build to be able to do this. That being said, I mean, we can kind of hash into any of the faults of the roster that you guys might see, because there's, I said to you guys before the podcast, like I don't see them having some kind of 4-13 season where it's just like, holy crap, like what they have like a absolutely gargantuan failure. But I could see like, man, they're a little disappointing and they end up like 8-9.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys kind of see? Obviously injuries could be the big thing, but what do you guys see like from a personnel or coaching standpoint that could lead to that kind of disappointment?
Well, it's looking at the two sides of the ball. Is Jonathan Gannon going to show his genius this year now that he has all the tools? And on the other side of the ball, is Jalen Hurts even a little bit better than he was last year with an incredibly better supporting cast?
Right.
Those two questions are the things that I'm most focused on. Jonathan Gannon last year, he has his safety 6 yards deep into the end zone. Doesn't understand at the moment you break the goal line. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you keep him in front of you. Yeah. So that the defense, I think, is just going to be, if they're giving up these long drives like they were last year, and we're not seeing as much creativity, he's just got no excuse.
Right.
So I think, if they come out slow against the Detroit team, if they get down, 14-3 or something, it's going to make me nervous. But I'm very shaky on both coaches.
Yeah.
And I'm just about as shaky on Jalen Hurts. So everything else is great. Those three people are pretty freaking important.
Just the three most important people in the organization as far as
I have
on
the
the
most
field.
confidence in Jalen Hurts being
Okay.
solid.
Okay.
The other two guys, I legitimately do not have much faith in.
It's a big year for Jonathan Gannon, absolutely. Like, he could either be like a significant head coach candidate
He'll
next
be
year,
a head coach if the defense is good, I would think.
or
Very confident.
he could be out of the job, and that's a pretty wide, range of outcomes. I get both sides of the Jonathan Gannon argument because the people who are
And
expecting
it's going to be. Let me
yeah.
jump in. It's going to be a really big swing for the Arizona Cardinals when they're eventually, firing Cliff Kingsbury and trying to hire Jonathan. Are they going to be trying to hire Jonathan Gannon? That's the big question.
That's a good question.
They're going to dig when everybody else is zagging, following the Cliff debate. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. But like with Gannon, like it's easy to say, well, if you look at the personnel that he was using last year, a lot of Steven Nelson, a lot of Alex Singleton, a lot of Hassan Ridgeway. Like you replace those guys with James Bradbury and Jacoby Dean and Jordan Davis, and you add Hassan Reddick and Kaiser White. I'm like, oh yeah, that should make it a lot easier. That should make the ability to call the defense and be more aggressive in certain moments easier. But like you, Jake, I just have flashbacks of just mediocre to fine quarterbacks carving up that defense, marching up and down the field at will, like 70%. Yeah, exactly. So it's hard to like marry those two factors in my head, but that's what I'm most excited to see. Like, I know the Hurt stuff. Like you, I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to take a huge step, but the defense is what's going to make this team go from like a 9-win team last year, and we can say it, a suspect 9 wins, not the best competition, to 11, 12 potential first seed status. That's going to be the big thing.
And final thoughts on Gannon. I think the only way the defense is bad is if he's overthinking it, if he's overcomplicating it, right? If he's saying believe in the system, regardless. You've got, like Nick Sirianni said, you want to be a good coach, just get great players. Ray, I'm really interested to hear. Let's save Hurts for a second. Put him on the back burner. Where are you at with Gannon and Sirianni, who you've been on the stump for the past year and a half?
I mean, why would I be off the stump? Sirianni made the playoffs in his first season. I just like him, man. I just think he's likable. I think the team has responded well to him. I think when you consume the Eagles content at a level that I consume it, and you're consuming
a radio like active level, we should be clear. The toxic level.
Yeah, the like mic'd up at practice clips that they'll put out, stuff like that. Dude, he's got a good jive going with this team. The team feels good. They're super healthy, might I add. Doug Peterson,
knock on wood.
Mr. Pads in August. Super healthy. Honestly, I'm starting to believe like they could come out a little sloppy week 1, but if it's going to bring you, if running camp the way he's run it the last 2 years brings you into the season looking significantly healthier than these other teams, I mean that is a hugely, I think, under talked about thing with him and his program that he's running. His program, it's a fantastic change of pace the last 2 seasons in terms of just not having like 2 to 3 guys significantly injured before the season that are key starters. I mean, like Dillard is hurt. There's a couple of guys banged up, but like the real studs of this team are ready to rock and roll. And I just really like the kind of, I guess you would say, like players first atmosphere is created that isn't a pushover. He still pushes guys, but I do think he's pretty well liked within the locker room. As for Gannon, I'm much more dicey on this. If they start dropping Reddick back in coverage and doing some wild stuff, I mean, I'll be out on him pretty quick. Like you said, Kareem, it could go either way. There's a lot to be desired from the game plan they were bringing last year, so I'm a little less bullish on him. But Nick, I got to give it to the guy. If you can get people prepared with enough practice and bring people in healthy and have people feeling good and liking playing for him, I'll take it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah. Some other pitfalls I can think of. Are we sure that Hurts and AJ Brown are going to have like this instant connection? Like I've seen too many wide receiver acquisitions kind of be stunted. The quarterback and we know they have a great relationship off the field, but like, are we sure that's gonna translate? And how different is the offense gonna look from last year if that connection isn't like firing on all cylinders?
Look, this is one of the reasons we're here is to plant our Jalen Hurts flag.
Yeah.
So that way we can be on the record. If you went into last year with the expectation that he had to show you enough to come back the following year, he did that.
Sure.
The bar and the qualifications for being able to return next year, incredibly different set of criteria.
Yeah.
But he's got the genetic makeup that you have all the faith in the world that he's going to be able to do it. Guy doesn't turn the ball over. Most of the time he's been, pretty good about that. He's a dynamic runner.
Yeah.
If he can improve on the margins in the passing game, if he can, effectively throw over the middle of the field, this team can go as far as Jalen Hurts will take them.
Sure.
And I think the level of belief right now is he's going to take them to the playoffs when the other team has, the Todd Bowles level defenses ready to stop what they're good at.
Right.
Is the result going to be any different than it was last year, regardless of the upgrades across the team?
That's the question.
Jalen Hurts has it's not making a believer out of somebody, it's making someone a temporary subscriber, right? I have a temporary subscriber to Jalen Hurts going into this NFL season. With the NFL season about to kick off tomorrow night, I think Jalen Hurts is a fine quarterback to have with this team, and it's certainly playoff caliber.
Yeah.
But now you're getting cute with me. You said a minute ago it's time to get definitive, and now you're hitting me with the temporary. What is the what is it?
You're right.
Is he the quarterback 2 years from now
Yeah.
on an extension that is worth $100+ million? Because that's the season he's coming into. He's coming into this season expecting to make the Pro Bowl and sign $100+ million deal. That's his game plan. That's what he's thinking.
He will have fine stats, and he will lead them to the playoffs, and he will not be their quarterback in 2 years.
That's tough. Yeah.
What's your stance, Cream?
I mean, I have a hard time believing that anything less than a conference finals appearance is going to be enough for Howie Roseman, and he's going to explore all other options if he doesn't think Hurts can get him there.
Right. When we talk about the criteria that he has to hit, you're saying an NFC Championship appearance.
Yeah.
Seems about right, I think, if you ask the general population. Remember when,
or at least showing the ability to get there, to win a big division
it's all about those playoffs,
against a big-time
those playoff
quarterback.
performances.
Yeah.
That's all it'll be. The whole regular season, the expectation is he's going to get double-digit wins. He probably will, more likely than not. It's all going to be about those playoff games. Those are the auditions for that crazy buku money that you're talking about, Ray. Those playoff games will be everything.
Yeah.
I disagree. I don't think they are everything. I think you look at Lamar Jackson with very little playoff success, but he has an MVP and was the most electric player in 2019 in the entire league, and has 3 Pro Bowls under his belt or whatever it is at this point, or a couple All Pros, and he's negotiating his his probably $200 to $300 million contract as we speak with his team, and he's a no doubt extension guy. And name the big Lamar Jackson playoff wins.
I mean, well, he does have wins.
I can't.
That's more than Jalen Hurts has to say.
Yeah, I don't have those playoff wins. I guess the stats that he put up in the MVP year. Let's see Hurts sniff that before we start making that argument.
Yeah, and have even a fraction of the talent.
I could see the Jalen Hurts breakout season come here. So Lamar is 1-3 in the playoffs. I could see the Jalen Hurts kind of breakout season coming here, where if you give me a yes or no answer, like is he a guy getting extended, becoming the franchise QB for the next at least 4 years that's the plan. I'm going to go with yes, man. I think he has a fantastic statistical season, even if it doesn't end in a Super Bowl appearance or NFC Championship game. If he's a dominant, potentially 1,000-yard rusher on the ground, 28 to 35 touchdowns through the air, not turning the ball over. I don't see, there's only so many avenues to get better than that, and if they're doing that, they're probably going to be pretty far from the number 1 overall pick, and it's a dicey game trying to trade for a veteran. So I think he ends up being kind of like the guy, not on any kind of Mahomes 10-year contract, but like here's your 4 years at 30 a year or whatever it is.
Right. Kind of the Kirk Cousins range.
Yeah, and I'm fully on board with that, man. I really I like Hurts. I wanted to give him all last year. I like him as a face of the franchise and as a personality in the locker room and as a combo with my favorite head coach. So I'm in on the combo. That's
there it is. I mean, you heard it here first.
Those pieces don't fit. Like Hurts wasn't hand selected by Sirianni, and like they're both buddy, and he wears his shirt, and Sirianni's goofy, and Hurts is still get into the playoffs, and I think it's probably if he gets to the playoffs and wins a playoff game, he's the guy. Like regardless of what, unless he 4 interceptions, the subsequent game or whatever. But I'm just saying, I don't think he shows enough of a Lamar Jackson type ascendant this season to make us believe that he's the guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see because the line
we
is going to change.
We need that cream line in the sand.
There's my flag. I've planted it.
I would say I lean toward he won't be the quarterback. I think they'll trade for a veteran.
I lean towards it. What kind of wishy-washy words?
God.
Come on.
What do you want from me, man?
I
just told you.
Definitive take.
I'm telling you right now.
I want you to say CJ Stroud is the Eagles quarterback.
I would love if CJ. I saw that game on what was it, Saturday? That kid looked really good. He was doing stuff. He was pinging that ball around. Oh, it was unbelievable. Sign me up for that. But like Brett said, probably not going to get anywhere near that top pick.
Probably leaning towards, can't get a straight answer out of this guy. Hey, at least we got 1 out of the 3 of us are true believers in the future quarterback of these Philadelphia.
And I just think it's going to be funny this season because every week we're going to have the Hurts relitigation of like, is he the guy? Is he not the guy? Like, that's going to be kind of the energy. We've never had that before. People were so in on Carson and before that.
We had a version of the Hurts talk like that last year. A little bit week to week. It is going to be
so much more. It's so much more now because now it's like playoffs are on the line. Like people have expectations. Last year it was a feel good story. If they start 2-3, like people are going to be, people are going to go crazy.
It was close to going off the rails last year. They're 2-5. They're getting embarrassed by these quarterbacks on the other side. So, look, Nick Sirianni
held it together, though.
Held it together. He doesn't call the plays on offense anymore. I give that to Shane Steichen. The defense is this wonder kid guy, who's going to be a head coach somewhere else next year. Nick Sirianni is just a CEO that's just all vibes, dude. He's all vibes. It's all emotional intelligence. But it might be enough.
Man, I'm all vibes.
I mean, he's just a solid dude. He's just solid.
That sounds good to me, though.
It sounds good enough for now.
Dude, he's coming to the facility, crushing beers. He's all vibes. I love him.
He's like a LaCroix guy, whatever. LaCroix guy. That's him, dude. He's crushing LaCroix and watching like college lacrosse on the weekends, dude. He's a goober.
So we got two kind of potential pitfalls here so far. We got Gannon getting spicy with these schemes. We got Jalen Hurts' accuracy potentially being an issue. The A.J. Brown addition potentially being kind of underwhelming. I'll throw one out here, man. I would have, if you gave me $100 to spend on it, I would have absolutely bet Aaron Tsipras was not on this team coming into the season. How did this guy make
He's the only player they have.
Everybody was saying, oh, it's only because they're waiting for camp to finish up so that, like, the veteran punters get cut, like the ones that get cut for, like, the draft pick guy.
Pick one up,
and then they'll just pick up the veteran. Why is he still here? He was terrible last year, dude. He was like, terrible.
A downfall that is, like, unprecedented in Philly sports, how bad he was at the end of last year. And, like,
dude,
in the playoff game.
A legitimate, like, multiple things happened. So that, I think that Tampa Bay game was honestly like a little closer than the score indicated. Like you had a huge Goddard drop.
Yeah.
You had some
the
shank shots by Siposs. Yeah, you had some fumbles. There was a bunch of really poor executed plays, but his crumbling at the end of the year I was shocked to see him make the roster, and that does start to matter. Like when you're talking throughout the regular season.
Yeah, and when we're working with the fine margins of trying to get to 12 wins, like you can't have these tanks in these key moments. Like that is fascinating. I don't know what the thinking is on that. I'd be fascinated to see like what this guy has on them. That maybe he's fine. Maybe it was an injury thing, but you're right, Ray. Like that's startling. Underrated, like crazy thing.
I've only heard that mentioned a couple times, and it is probably the most likely thing that will go wrong is that he will fuck up the field position battle with like 4 minutes left in the game, and he can decide it in like a one possession game. Like that is, of all the possibilities, that's right. That would be the betting favorite, probably something related to Aaron
Siposs.
And
a couple other
injuries, of course. Like they're now like a little bit thinner at tackle. If one of those guys goes down, that's a huge loss.
And center. I mean, Kelsey's coming back from an elbow procedure.
Right. Yeah, and you have rookies, a rookie behind him. Safety, we haven't seen it yet. It's going to be a new pairing. Have never played together in any type of game, so that'll be interesting to see. It's not a perfect roster, but like we were saying earlier, a lot of the holes did get filled from last year. The talent level, especially on defense, has just taken 2 or 3 steps forward. You'd say to the point where people are saying it's a top 5 roster in football. You contrast that with last year when most people expected us to finish well below 500, like with 6 or 7 wins was the max for this team. It's pretty startling, off season from Howie Roseman. But yeah, so Jake, any other pitfalls you're seeing? There's not a lot of holes in the roster. That's kind of what I'm kind of working towards here.
No, I don't see anything limiting this offense other than Jalen Hurts being uncharacteristic in his turnovers.
Running back is a little underwhelming, to be honest.
And it's been for a couple of years, and they've been able to make it effective still. So I'm not as concerned by that. I think they'll still do enough to keep the balance and the efficiency of their offense, in a good enough spot.
Yeah. No, running backs are good. That's a good point. Yeah.
All right. So, Kareem, you mentioned kind of their standing among the rest of the league. I don't think we need to go whole league-wide, but are we firmly feeling good both presently and future versus the rest of the NFC East? I mean, I feel like the Cowboys are the ones that you are really pointing towards, but how do you guys feel in terms of our standing within the division?
Yeah, I think for as good of an offseason as the Eagles have, and for like how many positives that we can point to, the Cowboys really had a strange offseason. Bad meaning, losing key players for nothing. Their draft picks even were weird. They got their offensive lineman is like the most penalized player in college sports. Not sure if that's like a good look for them.
Including volleyball and men's basketball.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. But like from where they were last year to what you have to see, like major chinks in the armor. They still have Mike McCarthy as their head coach. Kind of unbelievably, kind of the same similar disbelief that we have about Aaron Siposs is Mike McCarthy still being the head coach of the Cowboys. You got to see that they're vulnerable to give up this division crown. And just moving forward, they got some nice pieces, obviously, some young guys that play well. But we all know that Jerry Jones isn't one to like plan for the future. Like he's trying to win now, and they just they seem really vulnerable to me.
Yeah, I mean, we've been quite a dysfunctional organization. That being said, we're not usually, I can't remember Howie having to trade a guy like Amari Cooper because in order to make the money work,
Right.
you know, or a James Bradbury cutting from the Giants because of the way that they messed up their money. Like, for all of our faults, you know, we're not usually the type of organization that has to make those types of moves.
Right.
And in comparison to the conference at large, like, this team got a lot younger
Yeah.
and was able to plug really pressing needs at several position groups. I feel pretty confident about the squad, and I'm just like fascinated to see what this looks like in the actual games.
Yeah.
Because on paper, it's about as good as you could hope for.
Right.
It's just a matter of like, will it be underwhelming regardless, even if they're winning? You know,
Right.
because we put so
It's
much
kind of
pressure on the team.
it's getting to the point where it's kind of almost going to be underwhelming no matter what because our expectations are getting so out of control. Not out of control, but sky high, certainly. Like
I think
people expect this team to win every game.
I think
like
10 wins will probably win the division, but if they win the division at 10-7 and then lose in the first round of the playoffs, people have really bad taste in their mouth. So.
Absolutely. Where do you fall, Ray?
I feel very good. The problem is the ultimate trump card kind of comes down to the QB, and I do think Dak Prescott's better than Jalen Hurts, at least in the short term. Like, if I could trade Jalen Hurts for Dak Prescott tomorrow, I probably would. And so that's really the thing that the Cowboys can still hang their hat on. As for, like, the Commanders and the Giants, man, I like both our short-term and long-term prospects comparatively. Yeah. I guess the only thing you could really say about them is, like, they're well-positioned to be bad and, like, come back around and get their guy at potentially from college. So
and a new regime for the Giants as well, being able to have the new guys that are in charge get their guys. There's a lot of value to that as well.
Yeah, and they do seem like they've made the right decisions in terms of tearing it down, fire it, clearing house, getting rid of the necessary people. So the Giants do feel like they're after being easily literally at this point a bottom 3 franchise in the entire league, they do appear to have kind of passed the Commanders in terms of their potential. But over the next 3 years, I'll take our situation over anybody else's.
Yeah, I mean that's where the general consensus is as of right now. You'd have to be swerving pretty hard to not think this team is in a pretty good spot.
So. Do you guys have anything else on the Eagles before we move on? I think we hit a lot of the points of a preseason or a season preview. Other than that, we can get into some of the actual just our predictions for the actual whole league and Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I'll just start out. We can kind of go, around the horn here and see who's got a burning case, but. I think you're going to see the teams that are supposed to be really good just are going to be, and the teams that are bad are supposed to be. I think the Bills will be great. I think the Chargers are going to be great. We're talking
hot takes coming out.
We're
Watch
talking
yourself.
multiple teams with 13, maybe a team with 14 wins.
Yeah.
We're talking some fucking powerhouse teams this year. Specifically, the Chargers.
So you're saying there's a real haves and have-nots coming in. There's not a lot of gray area this year.
Yeah, and specifically when you look at that through the prism of the Eagles, it's kind of like we'll be riding the coattails of those really good teams. We'll be one of those rare teams that are kind of in the middle of the gray area a little bit at 10 wins probably, where we're definitely a tier below the top, but certainly not the very bottom with teams like the Falcons and the Texans, even the Titans. There are a lot of teams that could be horrendous, and obviously there's a reason to be really bad. So I definitely think you're going to see that gulf emerge early on in the season. And for the most part, guys like the Justin Herberts and the Josh Allens of the world are going to be totally dominant. And it's just going to make it even more apparent to the bad teams that without that guy at quarterback, none of the other stuff matters.
No, I mean, it's a, fair point. Like, those teams are really good, really well set up. They don't have a lot of holes. Like it's not. I feel like in years past, you're right. Like the top teams were kind of like all like where the Packers are now, where like they're good because their quarterback's good and they got a good coach. But you look at those rosters at the top that we're talking about, like the Rams and the Bills, and the Chargers, like top to bottom, those rosters are really solid. And you have to think that they're gonna, like you said, over the course of the season, really exert their will over a lot of teams.
Do you have any non-expectation teams that you think kind of come out of the woodwork?
I think the Jaguars will be pretty good. I think Trevor Lawrence is
ever the Doug Homer.
Legitimately good, and I just think that team will.
It's not the hardest division to sneak up on.
That team is going to flirt with 9 wins this year, fellas.
That's probably too high, but I am also hoping for a Jaguars revival.
I would love
featuring Dougie P and his ice cream.
Oh my God!
We all love that. We would all love to see that.
Never liked the ice cream videos. Always found them painfully.
You're a hater though. That's okay. I'm back in the Ravens bandwagon this year. I think they could get to 12, 13 wins. If they just get even a little healthy, I think they can have a really good bounce back year.
Hopefully Kyle Hamilton is not amazing.
And they were the other team, or they were the team after the draft where everyone was like, "Oh my God, they did it again!" They came out
right.
and stuck the landing on like 4 picks in a row.
Who fell to them, and they just did it the right way.
Yeah.
I'll take my kind of like sleeper team. I do agree with Jake. There were some big aggressive moves, like God, the AFC West. Just crazy loaded with Russell Wilson. Like all those teams will probably be good, and that's what's kind of crazy is like you can kind of see all of them.
When you look at like where the NFC East has been, where like none of the teams have been that good, and contrast it with the West out there, that's pretty stark. Yeah.
I like the Vikings though as kind of like a surprise playoff team. Yeah. Explosive offense.
NFC North, yeah.
Yeah, I could see them kind of coming up, and I do think the Packers are still the better team, but I do like the Vikings to be a surprise playoff appearance here. So let's get our matchup and our winner for the Super Bowl. We need to plant our flag of who we're taking, who we want on record as our representatives, and who takes it home.
Boy, well, I'll go ahead and get it started here. I'm not going to overcomplicate things, guys. I got the Super Bowl is simply going to be a rematch of the game that's going to kick off this NFL season. Give me the Rams and the Bills, and give me the Bills getting their first Super Bowl. I'm not overthinking it. I'm not Johnny Gans. I'm not overthinking this, okay? Bills at time. Bills Mafia.
Great. Good.
Mic drop. That's it.
Johnny Gans.
No, I'm not gonna throw some exotic formations at you, only to still drop sticks into coverage.
I mean, wow, some great analysis.
All right, who you got for me, Cream?
I'm gonna go with the Ravens and the Rams, and I'm gonna go with the Ravens winning.
Oh my goodness,
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. That's a bold pick.
I'm excited to see it.
I went with the Packers and Bills. I went with the Bills, but wouldn't it be? It feels like one of those things where I don't know. When I look at the Packers roster, they made a ton of like interesting early picks as well. Like Christian Watson, I don't think he's going to be much of a contributor this year, but with the guys they took out of Georgia, the defensive pieces they added there, along with what they already had, amazing secondary players, amazing corners with really good linebacking core, Rashawn Gary. They could be the team where it's like, oh yeah, wasn't it wild when they like won the Super Bowl after they got rid of Devontae Adams? You know what I mean? Like they kind of like ride the defense and just kind of get by with Aaron Rodgers being really good. So I'll take the Packers and the Bills, but in that matchup, I would like to see the Bills kind of break through and get that first title. So I'll take the Bills there.
That Bills Chiefs game last year.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're ever going to get something that incredible again. Like
That was
playoff
pretty
matchup.
wild. That was pretty wild.
And I think it would be great for the league if the Bills got it.
Yeah, good.
All right. Do we have any other football talk here? I know I couldn't I couldn't pay you guys to watch a college football game, so I'll just leave that where it is. And any other awards? You know, you got a rookie, you got a hot MVP. Jake, you got any hot prop bets you got to lay out on us? What's get your final sampling here before we head out.
You're gonna let me shine a little bit. All right, so worst team. Make a prediction about the worst team.
Okay.
You know, you got the Bears, you got the Texans.
Right.
Man, Seattle maybe? They could be
Giants, sure.
Giants, Jets.
Who do you think?
I'm taking the New York Jets
Wow.
as the worst team. Zach Wilson was always going to be bad.
Okay.
Howie really liked him. Of course he did. I'm so happy we didn't take him.
Yeah.
And I think the Jets are going to be the worst team. And I think that Justin Fields will throw the most interceptions this year. So if you got anything about worst team or quarterback that's going to throw the most interceptions,
I feel bad for Justin Fields. I think he's
going to be running for his life.
That's not a good situation for him. I hope he stays safe. I can definitely see. I mean, I think the Texans are probably just the worst roster.
Damian Pierce isn't going to be able to run them to 8 wins?
I don't think so. But I think he still will be fantasy relevant if that's true.
QB with the most interceptions?
QB with the most interceptions? Just Daniel Jones. I hate him. I just hate him. Yeah. Don't like him.
The problem is he's too busy fumbling before he gets the ball.
Oh, yeah, you know what? That's what it is.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson might sound
won't
into
lead
that.
the league. I will go with the Bears as well, based on the fact that the line. Yeah. Well, just like one, they're intentionally tearing down the roster. They were old. They had bad contracts. They have a brand new coach who, you know, they're just rebuilding it. And also with the Lions being improved, like I said, I like the Vikings, and you have an elite team in the Packers. So you have potentially 6 losses right there in the division. I could see them losing every single division game to start out, and then from there it can be a pretty easy landslide to being the number 1 overall pick. As for, you know, most interceptions, I'll have to go. Let's go with Tua. We'll go with Tua.
Oh.
You know, maybe not even like he's terrible. Maybe, you know, it's an Eli Manning situation where you're like, yeah, he's still like good, but he did throw, you know, he had 35 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. Like it's just one of those things. Yeah. So we'll go with my man Tua.
These are great answers. I'm sorry, I have one more question for you to make it quick. Is Trey Lance going to be good? Because
I can't wait to find out.
That pick,
it could be anything. And he could be anything.
What it means for that team and the Jimmy re-signing and all of that, like that's pretty high drama going on over there in the West Coast.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They traded 3 first-round picks for him, right? Like they traded 2 to move up, and then
that includes the one. Yeah, it includes like the one that's essentially a wash. People like saying 3 because it's dramatic, but it's like, you know, the one was exchanged for number 3, and then it's 2 additional. I'm pretty sure.
Do you think he's gonna be good?
I don't think he's gonna be that good. I think he'll probably be fine.
And will he ever be better than Jimmy Garoppolo?
That's not a high bar. I'm gonna say
Okay.
I don't think that's a very high bar.
So I had a fantasy draft the last weekend in a 12-man league. So, you know, the waiver wire is slim pickings, and I have 1 QB on my team, and it's Trey Lance. That's it. I'm all in, dude. Not even, you know, maybe he's like not winning tons of games, but fantasy-wise, like I said, you know,
it could be
around Hurts. You know, is he putting up stats? Is he scoring touchdowns? Is he running the ball around? I'm all in on him. Doing really well.
I'm excited to find out about him.
That's a fun storyline,
to follow.
Because good weapons, too. Great, like, you know, great tight end, 2 good wide receivers. and awesome coaches.
Really
I mean,
team,
he's set up to succeed. I really believe in his situation more than anything.
So many storylines.
What's up?
There's so many storylines for the most entertaining sport we have to offer, man. It is finally back. I'm hyped.
I don't know how we've gotten this far without talking about Matt Rule. You know, like that storyline. Everybody loves Matt Rule now.
I'm a believer in Baker. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Is Marcus Mariota going to have the comeback?
Oh,
Maybe.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I love it, man. There's so many. The last thing we'll do is I want to get a pecking order of the NFCs. So we'll get a prediction here on the NFC East, and then we'll boogie out of the NFL. But who's the standings? Which I assume you're starting with the Eagles at first place.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. I don't have a lot of trouble with this one. I think it's pretty clearly Eagles, then Cowboys, then Washington, and then Giants down to Boston. I think Washington will be closer to the Giants than the Cowboys.
Is Wentz on the Commanders next year?
No.
Oh my God,
No.
dude.
That's actually like, joking aside, that is a real storyline. The Wentz career, and I got to give it to you. You know, we had a squad of about 10 guys. You know, we're watching every Sunday together. We had 9 guys in on the Wentz pick, and we had Jay Klein out. He played the long game because it was looking pretty wrong for like a 4 or 5 year run there. And he just waited it out. He was always out on him. He always discriminated against his hair color. He never trusted it. And here he was, you know, I mean, years removed, no glory to be had, but he was right about Carson
He was
Wentz not
right,
working
yeah.
out.
Good for you.
They say when you're proven right that you'll feel it, and I don't welcome this feeling of being right about Mr. Wentz. And boy, what a journey, the Carson Wentz ride, man! What an experience.
To have that Jacksonville game be his last Indianapolis Colts experience, like, oh my god, like,
that's such a bad game, man.
And he was efficient and didn't turn the ball over a lot last year. Like, he was probably everything they paid for to get him, and they couldn't get him out of there fast enough. That's like a wild situation, the fact that he's, you know, still having issues like that.
So allow me to build off of that Wentz talk and segue back into my rankings. You're going to have the Philadelphia Eagles at 1 and the Washington Nameless, led by Mr. Wentz, coming in at number 2, followed by the Dallas Cowboys, and of course closing with the New York Giants.
No way.
I think Washington, you know, might surprise some people early and then do the Wentz
with
special.
With what?
Do the Wentz special and completely fall off of a hill the last 4 games inexplicably and fall back down to earth. But I get a weird feeling about the Washington team this year. I think they could have a good start.
All right. I'll stick with the Eagles at the top. We're all going to be different, actually. The Cowboys at second, and then I'm going to go with the Giants at third. I do like the Giants offensive line. I like Barkley having a big year. I do think he will be much more similar to his old self coming into this season. And then Washington just
probably
having
a good coach.
Another train wreck of a season.
Yeah.
So, all right, we got to move on here. We got a quick hitter on the Phils. We're in the final stretch of both this podcast and the Phillies. First successful season in a decade, and it's fading through. The sand is slipping through our fingers as Dominguez and Wheeler and Castellanos and, you know, the lack of offense or
lack of power,
lack of power. You know, Schwarber's power has left him with this lingering calf issue. Just the injuries have piled up to the point where, not even unexpectedly, honestly, like the Phillies are fading, and it's like, hey, if you lose your ace and your closer in a 48-hour stretch, and then you lose, your 5-hole hitter a week later, and you lose, a couple other
Your two best
ancillary.
players aren't hitting for power anymore.
When you lose these pieces, like, it leads to consequences, and they are starting to struggle a little bit. We got to plant our flag here on. God, it's been a decade of playoff-less baseball. I literally was actually talking to my girlfriend, who I've been with for the better part of this decade, and I was literally like warning her because she's not a sports fan, and I was telling her, like, hey, this upcoming fall, this was like 2 weeks ago, I was like, this upcoming fall, there's going to be Phillies playoff baseball that we need to watch. And I know you don't have any experience with this, but this is going to matter to me, and I'm going to make time to watch these games. I need to be watching these games. And I was like, this is literally like my first time as an adult needing to worry about this. And we are sitting here not guaranteed for it to happen anymore. And it's starting to become pretty stressful. I'm still holding the faith. I think they still get into a solid wild card position. I do like that you don't just play the one gamer anymore. You at least get 3 games to work with, a 3-game series to work with. But I'm in on them still making it, but it's gotten real dicey, especially considering that it's been a decade, and I was already 100% mentally ready to be there and thought it was a done deal.
No, you're absolutely right. That is the same mindset that I think a lot of Phillies fans are dealing with right now. At the start of in mid-April, August, the team's winning, Bryce is coming back. What could go wrong? And turns out a lot could go wrong. And we're here, but I think through sheer determination and playing the Marlins and Nationals, I think the Phillies might cobble together enough wins just to make it. And the fact that the Brewers are still bad, they keep losing inexplicably to the Rockies, and they're blowing leads left and right. It's all lining up to end this massive drought for what was one of the best franchises in baseball. To go a decade without going to the playoffs is such a travesty, and I do believe it will end this year. I don't know how far they'll get. I don't know how competitive they'll be, but they will make the playoffs, and that is just, I'm just savoring that right now. That's me.
They're certainly puttering.
Yeah, they did pick up the win tonight. It was 2 in a row against the Marlins, so you got to feel a little better.
They're gonna find a way. I do take issue with the new format for the playoffs. We don't have a lot of time. I have spoken with Cream extensively about this. The fact that it's a wild card series, a WCS, the new acronym. I'm completely out on the whole thing. It's an asterisk playoff appearance if they don't make it past that round.
No way,
if they don't
man.
get to the NLDS.
It's in the playoffs.
It's illegitimate in my eyes. You can say it's in the playoffs all you want. That's fine. Look, I'm all in on this team.
So you
love
like
this
when
team.
guys play 162 games and then their starter, last year, I'm pretty sure one of those games, the other team gave up 8 runs in the first inning, and they were like, well, our season's over. That was it. It was a one game. Their starter got shelled. It was over. Their season was over from one bad start. At least you get another crack at it. That's all I'll say.
3 games. I like it.
Look, I support the idea theoretically, but since it's my team, I don't feel great about it. Look, I ride with Rob. You know what I'm saying? Rob, he's been great.
Yeah.
Love the shirt. All right. They're going to get
Not a fan of Nick Sirianni's shirt, but Rob Thompson, different story.
Right, there's other people wearing the shirt of him. It's not pandering. It's a whole different psychological mechanism to look the whole thing through.
They're making the playoffs?
They're making the playoffs.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear.
They're making the thing formerly known as the MLB playoffs.
They're making the WCS, which is a thing.
And you know what they'll do before, during, and after said event? Pop champagne, because that's what baseball is.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, dog.
That's what I want.
So we qualify for the 3-game playoff as the 3rd wild card team after expansion. Pop the champagne, son. Yeah, let's go, dude. I can't wait to see it. And then you know what we're going to do after we win that 2 games? Pop some champagne. Dude, egregious. That's the hottest. That's the thing that gets me the hottest, man. That is like still the most annoying thing about the MLB playoffs. Like, get over it.
Every round, yeah.
Maybe it's going to take
God.
them doing it, getting into the WCS. That'll be the thing that changes the culture around champagne topping.
I want like the Nick Saban manager to come in and just be like, "No, we're not doing that until we actually like we're not doing that until the World Series."
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Do the Dodgers still do that? Like, they've done it every single year. Do they still pop a champagne after winning the first round?
Probably.
Just any excuse, right? Any excuse.
It's crazy to me, dude. All right.
Enough tangents. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, we just had to. I will say, last thing on the Phillies, even with the potential collapse, Dombrowski, you gotta love the professionalism that he's brought to the team, the legitimacy. The farm has been more productive. The young guys have come up and produced. The team has spent money acquiring Marsh, acquiring Thor, and who else did they get? They got
Mundo Sosa, who's now like the best
yeah.
player in the league, who hit a 2-run home run tonight and won the game last night.
Oh yeah,
pretty good.
So acquiring, some solid guys at the deadline and addressing needs. Dombrowski, you got to give it up to him. He's had a really good past couple of years since getting hired. So he's brought stability. He has his team on the verge of collapsing in front of the playoffs. And that's the closest we've been in a decade. So
yeah, I mean, we made it to September. Who collapsed? We didn't even make it. In the Gabe Kapler years, we did not make it to September.
Yeah.
By August, 20th, we were like, fuck.
Not this year.
All right.
This year is going down the wire.
Phillies, we believe in you. We're holding on for you. The last thing, Kareem made us put it on the agenda with the union surging. It would only be fitting that in our potentially final episode ever, we waste time discussing a team that 2 of the 3 hosts don't care about. But go ahead, Kareem.
What do you think?
Just that they're so good. They're so good, it's unbelievable. They're the best team in the league. They're gonna win the MLS Cup. It's the greatest thing, and they're scoring so many goals, guys. It's crazy. They have 4 wins of 6 or more to 0 this season. In the history of the MLS, no other team in their franchise history has more than 3 of such games, and we have 4 this season. Oh, it's unbelievable. I cannot wait for the playoffs. We are going to storm through the playoffs. We're going to win the championship.
What's the format? Is it single elimination?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. They're not winning it, dude. You're going to be crushed.
No, not this time. Not this time. We have the best defense. We have the best offense. We're going to probably break the record for best goal differential in the season. I mean, it's unbelievable from the time. I just think about all the times I shoehorned the Union in just to talk about them when there wasn't that much exciting things to talk about, and I just forced it in. And now, just like seeing the fruits of my labor right here, it feels great. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest.
All right. And then as an honorable mention, there's literally nothing that much. Actually, there is one minor piece in Sixers. We got a nice little minor piece of news to shoehorn you in. We can't. I mean, they're one of our true core pieces of the whole. It
wouldn't be in Eric Jr. I don't know that we've ever had an Eric Jr. podcast without even mentioning the Sixers. They're
Probably
that big a deal.
And so we have. I mean, we can sign off with the final piece of news is signing Montrezl Harrell to a 2-year contract, and that's the completion of, at least as far as we know, of the offseason for the Sixers with Anthony Melton, getting Harden back, PJ Tucker, Daniel House, and Harrell. I gotta say, I think 2/3 of these hosts are feeling really, really good about this roster.
I mean, it's certainly, when you look at this how the season ended last year and the way you wanted to add to this group, like, I don't know that you could do much better than this. Like, you bring in D'Anthony Mellon as another on-ball defender. You get PJ Tucker who's an incredible defender and three-point shooter. Daniel House to fill out the wing rotation. And now Montrezl Harrell, who is like underratedly productive, at least in the regular season. He scores a lot of points off the bench. And like as a backup to Embiid, we've never had that. And he's a great fit with Harden. Oh, it's like not a transformative signing by any means, but it's just another good piece of business, from my point of view.
And starting at small forward for your Philadelphia 76ers, you guessed it, Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
And trust me, there will be so much room for him to have down low in the post where he loves to be. It's going to be aesthetically pleasing. Starting him with P.J. Tucker, absolutely, not only is it going to work, it's going to thrive. And there's going to be so much space. There's going to be so much shooting. Look, pretty good offseason across the board. I'd say it's a B+, right? Brought in some toughness.
Yeah.
And you brought in some solid bench play.
Absolutely.
Still waiting on the next trade. Still waiting on some type of move that's going to make sense. Not quite sure what it looks like. Is there a team out there willing to give you a very protected first for Matisse Thybulle and something else? Maybe. Are you interested in getting rid of Matisse Thybulle? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I have confidence that this team can win a championship next year? Not really.
Okay.
But
this was one more thing I wanted to.
They can get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
As our final thing, as one of our final things, I want you to guess the year at each of the teams wins their next championship. So, Jake, when is the next time the Sixers will win a championship?
Oh my God!
Like, just give me a year.
2037.
Right?
Wait, which team are we doing? The Sixers? Okay, yeah. I'll take 2028 when Tyrese Maxey is leading the team and Embiid is like 40 and like the 15th man. So he gets the ring, but he's not at all part of it.
I'm going to go 2024.
Okay, so no championship after this season.
Eagles?
Eagles?
Feeling a little more bullish on that?
Eagles, Super Bowl champ, 2025. What's up, man?
Let's go.
I have no idea who's starting the quarterback, but what's up, man?
Okay. And Flyers 2060, are we thinking? 2070
I'm thinking
maybe?
like 19. When did they last win? Like 75?
Yeah. 2075?
No, I'll say 1975. Like they will not win again in our like.
Oh God, that's horrible. Even worse.
Like, dude, like they're just lost in the sauce. The Eagles, I'll take 2023. The Phillies, I'll take 2022. Boy, let's go.
Let's go.
Pop the bottle. They're gonna pop like 17 bottles for every round, dude. The Flyers, I mean, they're like questionable. I feel like their drafts every year. I text you at the end of the NHL draft cream, and I'm like, dude, it kind of looks like based on what I'm reading that they were like one pick away from like the real tier A guy, and that's happened like the last 3 years in a row. And you're like, yeah, it kind of worked out like that. It's just like been a slow decline.
Disaster, yeah. Fair to say, yeah. Yeah.
They're probably not going to win one in our lifetime. Yeah, that's for sure.
That's rough.
So we got
a couple championships coming up though. That's good to that's a couple championships coming up. Something to look forward to.
3, I think based on my rankings we got 3 in this decade to prepare for. So
one and good news guys, our junior podcast will be back in October.
Oh yeah. Red October.
Just a couple months. Just a month and a half away.
October.
We can do that.
The last piece, as we usually would close out a traditional episode, is with Jake getting a little bit of time to freestyle. Does he have a category for us? Does he bring the bit back? What do you got?
Look, fact of the matter is, there's not a lot of new content that's going to be coming out of the feed, if ever. Okay? So in lieu of that, What I've decided to
But
do with
also,
next category.
recently, there has also not been.
This is true. And to help you deal with that, we are each going to recommend you a podcast that could never replace what we offer here,
Of course not.
but could help supplement your rotation of podcasts that you cycle through. And I'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to recommend you one from the conglomerate, the monopolizing network known as the Ringer Podcast Network, that has a plethora of high-quality podcasts. And the Press Box with David Shoemaker and Brian Curtis is a good change of pace and easy guys to listen to. Good guests. Just a solid thing to listen to if you need a break from the everyday craziness that is our world. So, the Press Box.
Love it. Ready?
I'm going to go with Real Dictators, which is a historical podcast where they do about, I would say, 3 to 5 episodes of biographical material. So, I've been doing a little Napoleon Bonaparte. I've been doing a little Julius Caesar. If you're trying to listen up on how, Joseph Stalin came about, you're into that history lesson, Real Dictators, elite podcast. Fantastic.
Yeah. In that vein, Ray, I was going to do another history podcast by this guy, Robert Evans, Revolutions, different revolutions from around the world, how they impacted, how they came about. Really good one on the Haitian Revolution. Obviously, the big one being American and French, but just some of the other ones that we don't talk about enough or don't talk about at all. Just interesting to see how those ones came about. So, of the same mind, Ray, absolutely. I don't know if it fills the same niche as that you come for the EJP, but something to hold you over till that championship.
Yeah, and frankly, I don't think anything ever will. So,
No.
you're not missing. Just explore the world as you may, and hope that Philly sports come back so that you can have us provide really, really mediocre content in the future.
Yeah.
But on the real, guys, several years, a big hiatus for me, and roughly 160 episodes later, we're closing the book with the teeniest crack of light in it, but we're closing the book, and it's been a ride. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
All right.
All right, we got to sign off. Bye.